Hello, and welcome to this week's third episode of the Walk Weekly. This week, we're going to talk about immigration and its impacts. Also, we're going to talk about the genesis of the IT worker being replaced by foreign workers. Let you know that the southern border, the focus on the southern border is a distraction. The real job that are high paying, that brings people into the middle class, are your skill positions, such as technology. And those jobs are not coming from the southern border. Those people are not technologists. They don't have that skill set. They're not engineers, things of that nature. They are coming from countries that have failed to provide a stable environment. And that's an issue for another day. But I want to talk about where the focus should be, and that's on the East. All right, primarily India. But this episode is going to be about India and the Indian worker and how they've undercut the American worker out of the middle class and prevented the black American from getting into the middle class. Because a lot of these jobs are six-figure jobs. I mean, they're no longer cheap. They used to be cheap labor, all right, where the corporations went out in an effort to be competitive in terms of cost. They would hire an Indian. They would hire three Indians for the price of one American worker. So that goes to show you that that is somewhat understandable because they had no choice. Okay, within their verticals, But I don't understand now that the Indians are getting paid, really paid more than the American worker. I mean, you got all of these temporary jobs out here. Full employment. I mean, if you look at it, maybe 60% of those jobs are full-time jobs. The rest of them are contract to hire, and you never get hired. They don't want to pay the benefits. The Indian workers, no problem. They just want the money. They come over here young, and by the time they get in their 40s, they're ready to go home and contribute to their society or their country over there. And then they rotate and send somebody else. I mean, it's a horrible thing if you really, really think about it. And as I said, I don't want to lecture you. I just want to inform you. And you can take it for what it's worth and go about doing or drawing your own conclusions. Okay, I was reading an article about Silicone Valley in California, wherein only 29% of the workers are American. Can you believe that? Can you believe how the corporations have driven this, wherein 29% of Americans in California technology sector in Silicon Valley are being replaced? This has been going on since the turn of this century. I've been privy to, and I've had a hand in, but don't forget, this is a boss. I'm working as a project manager of outsourcing American jobs to India. I've been privy or participated as a worker, as a project manager, in doing what we call brain dump, meaning a company would outsource their IT development. What they would do is hire these Indian tech firms. And it was like this. First off, they would just use Indian workers, just outsource the entire thing to India, to cities such as Chennai and Mumbai. These Indian corporations such as Infosys and Tata started sending their Indian workers here to jobs on site in the U.S. to take over development. So what would happen is, and here's an example, you have an American worker that's been in doing programming, maintaining mainframes, and basically keeping the company running and advancing and laying the groundwork for today's technology. And they would send Indian workers over. First, you had to go to cultural sensitivity classes, believe it or not. And these cultural sensitivity classes were forced upon the American worker so that they could properly interact with the Indian worker. Okay? Number two, they had these Indian workers sit with the American worker who's been on that particular job for 15, 20 years, six-figure salary, was able to buy a house and live in the suburbs and raise his kids and send them to college. This was during the 80s and 90s. All right, come to 2000, in late 90s, 2000s, they had to sit with workers and do what we call a brain dump or a knowledge transfer. This is where the Indian worker would sit with the American worker and they would tell the Indian worker what they did. Can you imagine that? All right, and they were prompted, the American worker was prompted to do this with, okay, if you stay here for 18 months or 1 year, then your severance pay would be much more significant than if we laid you off today. What are you going to do? You're going to leave or you're going to stay for the 1 year or 18 months? And this was a horrible, horrible situation. We're talking about American families. They were homeowners. They were entrenched in the middle class, and Black Americans were upwardly mobile that were in that technology sector. I walked in on a job that was at a major financial institution, and in their IT area, I saw the offices, the corner offices. That's where the big shots sit. And they were Black Americans sitting in these in these corner offices. And I was saying, oh my goodness, this is a place for me. Now you see Indian workers sitting in those corner offices. One of the main culprits in the displacement of American workers within the technology sector is the H-1B visa. Corporations have leveraged this very, very heavily to declare that they cannot find qualified workers within the United States. So the H-1B and this leaning towards merit-based immigration, and which is only going to cause more. But I think it will be harmful to the Indian, but more beneficial to the East Europeans, because we're getting a lot of people in from Ukraine, and other East European countries. So the Indians are going to be replaced, by people that look like the people in charge here. But I digress. What we have here is smoke and mirrors. We're looking to the south while our left flank is being attacked from the east. And if you like this episode, please reach out to us. Let us know what you're thinking. Give us some feedback. Okay? These are topics that are very important to the minority community. And you can reach us at via Twitter at Walt Weekly, and you can visit our website. That's thewaltweekly.podbean.com. We look forward to hearing from you, because we got a lot of exciting and important, critical topics to discuss. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next week.